Which style is better, Miyagi-Do or Cobra Kai? This is the video that I've waited a long time to create, and I'm finally going to create it. Unlike all my other videos, this video really shouldn't take long, as the source material literally is just there that implicates what I'm trying to say, and I can use for examples. The height of this conversation will be me mainly discussing season 2 scaling, simply because there is something very important that we need to discuss there. If you guys do enjoy the video, please be sure to leave a like, subscribe. Thanks for watching, and let's get into the video right now. Now, just to start off, Miyagi-Do and Cobra Kai follow two completely different philosophies. Cobra Kai being all about offense, whereas an opponent is supposed to attack their opponent with various strikes and attacks. Basically, the whole point of Cobra Kai is to deal damage to your opponent until they basically can't, move anymore, or they can't fight anymore. I guess it's a better way to put it. Whereas Miyagi-Do is all about defense, and the whole point of it is that the best use for karate is defense. And why this is important is because Miyagi-Do being all defense, Cobra Kai being all offense, is illogical, and it's not really true to true karate. True karate, you need to learn both of these things. So I feel like it's disingenuous that in this verse, they have two different styles that focus primarily on the opposite of the other style, which is not necessarily true for Cobra Kai. When looking at Cobra Kai, what I mean by this is there are multiple instances where Cobra Kai does apply defense. It's just not legitimately direct defense. It's more like, oh, I see your attack coming, so I'm gonna throw a punch right there instead of throwing a punch here. It's more like reading your opponent, and that is mainly what Cobra Kai is supposed to be. It's about reading your opponent's movements and throwing a strike back instead of actually doing any blocks or counter moves. Whereas Miyagi-Do is nothing but counter defense. It's more about counter fighting. Basically, what you're trying to do is not read the opponent, but react to whatever the opponent does immediately, and then counter it based on what they threw at you through your training and methods of growth within that counter strike, that counter system. Now, what I want to make very clear about Miyagi-Do versus Cobra Kai, and what I think needs to be shown in verse, is say something that makes a little bit more sense. If it wasn't very obvious, Cobra Kai would be more effective if you, let's say, were not actually participating in a tournament setting style of a fight. It would be more effective if, say, you're getting jumped on the street and you need to protect yourself or something around those lines. Cobra Kai is definitely a better style when you consider the idea that it's being used on like the street, right? Like, if you consider that into account, then honestly Miyagi-Do is just not that effective. Like, Miyagi-Do is not good if you're in the street. We've seen this in season 3 where Robbie has to apply the Cobra Kai methods, and I say methods because he doesn't actually know the fighting style yet. He applies the mentality of it, and that's enough to somewhat beat Sean, but I would say they go relative, and there's really no real winner at the end of that. The police just kind of stop both of them, or the guards, I could say. Where I want to look at over the series, though, is that in the peak of like where the show like tries to shine its characters is within tournaments, and within these tournaments, it's very clear that Miyagi-Do is not only the better martial art. I would even go as far as to argue that Miyagi-Do is just the better martial art. And yes, even though you got my answer this early on into the video, I want to further that point by giving more than just that reasoning for why I would say Miyagi-Do is the better martial art. Miyagi-Do is the better martial art not only because it ties back to Okinawan karate and the fact that it literally is all about like defense, meaning that since Cobra Kai's offense, you pretty much are playing into their defense, and ultimately they have very high advanced defensive moves. Now, I want to make this very clear that Miyagi-Do has very specific levels to its skill. Basically, the first level is just basically the counter and stuff. The next level is stuff like the pressure points, which none of the students can actually do. Although your level of Miyagi-Do is still different depending on how long you trained in it, because you have to memorize the different ways to counter your opponent's attacks. Now, like I've already said, I would say a really good like Miyagi-Do user would be Daniel, obviously Mr. Miyagi. I would say Sam is probably up there. I mean, you could say like the other students, but I would say these three have trained in not only Miyagi-Do for longer than pretty much anyone else, I think, in canon. So they would, in theory, just be the best at it. Also, I completely just forgot Chosen would be obviously above Sam in terms of Miyagi-Do skill. Now, even though that may be true, that's not necessarily the point I'm trying to get at here. We see time and time again that Miyagi-Do users, even if they know like another style, the primary users of Miyagi-Do, despite learning maybe another style, is to always beat the other opponent when they learn their style, so on and so forth. We see this with Sam with Tori in season like 6, where she had 2, Tori only had 1 point, although she didn't officially beat her in there. We see this technically in the tournament as Sam was going to beat Tori as well there, but of course the ref cheated. And we've seen this time and time again with others, like Daniel versus Johnny, KKK 1. Daniel beats Johnny. That's a tournament, so it gives Daniel a little bit of an advantage anyways. But people have to remember that Daniel was nerfed and literally had his leg messed up. So Johnny, in theory, should not have struggled to beat Daniel in this instance. Yet Daniel scores 2 points on Johnny while he has to be forced to sweep his leg just to even get a chance at beating him. So you could just say that Daniel's Miyagi-Do skill, or Miyagi-Do in general, is just better overall. Not only mentioning the fact that we got Robbie being better than Miguel, so much to the point where Miguel even says if he didn't attack Robbie's injury, he would have had no chance of beating him in season 2. And I also want to clarify that Miguel used the injury of Robbie way more than Johnny did against Daniel. And with this being said, I think these are all very clear-cut points to say that Miyagi-Do is the better style. Plus, you have to keep in mind that both Mr. Miyagi and Daniel taught Robbie, and obviously Mr. Miyagi taught Daniel with less time than the other people had as contemporaries. Miguel had about a year to master Cobra Kai, and I'm not saying he mastered Cobra Kai. I'm not even saying he's a master, right? I'm just saying he had more time to learn Cobra Kai than Robbie had to learn Miyagi-Do. And this would also apply to Daniel as well, where Johnny had been in karate for years, and Daniel had only been in karate for like 3-6 months. I'm not really sure the time slot, but he was easily able to beat you know what I mean? He was easily able to beat Johnny in the finals. And I just find that to be very telling that Miyagi-Do has just always been better than Cobra Kai. And I'm not necessarily saying that maybe it's in tournament, but these are clear moments where if these are not tournament scenarios, the contemporary just still would lose because they're just so below the other users' skill level. It's insane. The other users at the time had not only more training, more experience, more skill, but yet they still lose. Well, clearly not more skill, but more experience at nothing else, and they still lose. I'm going to further this on a little bit by covering season 2 as I spoke of, and covering why this is important for me to discuss. People will tend to say, well, if Miyagi-Do is the better style, then why did Miguel struggle to, why did Robbie struggle to beat Miguel? And there's a simple reasoning for this. The reason why Miguel struggled, why am I keep switching their names up? The reason why Robbie struggled to beat Miguel is very simple. It's simply because he was unbalanced. And being unbalanced means that it's not that easy, basically, for Robbie to fight at full strength if he's worried about all the different things he was worried about. Now, don't get me wrong, Miguel did beat Robbie with the best feats he's ever shown, which would still put him above Robbie in season 2. But I just want to make it clear that Robbie was not at his technical peak, which would have been impossible for him to reach in these circumstances where his head is completely thrown off his game, and you can clearly see he's frustrated and even applying some of the Cobra Kai mentality in the fight itself, not really thinking about only defense. The man literally gets tunnel vision and kicks Miguel off. That's not an only defensive thing, you know what I mean? So with that being said, I think it should be fair to say that Robbie was not at full power in this fight and was conflicted with feelings. Plus, Miguel takes advantage of Robbie when he starts to do what I literally just said, which is lean more towards the Cobra Kai mentality, using his karate for not defense or countering, but to actually pummel Miguel until he just gets out pummeled, because this is what's going to happen if you apply offense against an offensive fighter. They are more skilled at offense and you're trying to use what they're good at against them. So it was only a matter of time before Miguel easily switched the tides of the battle, and he did just that. and Miguel would appear to come out on top and be the better fighter in that season. So my overall point here is Miguel only won that fight because Robbie was not at full power. There we go. In any other instance throughout the show, it's been shown multiple times over that Miyagi-Do was above Cobra Kai. We got Sam beating Hawk and pretty much 1v3ing all of them at the same time. We got Sam constantly beating Tori. We got, like, what else do we like have to keep looking at here? We have Hulk beating Robbie, who was in Cobra Kai at the time and was leaning more towards that style instead of Miyagi-Do, whereas Hulk was leaning more towards Miyagi-Do than Cobra Kai. Even though they both had to use both styles to win, this is just another clear example that when you focus more on the Miyagi-Do training than the other training, you tend to win more. I'm just saying it's all there. If you guys don't agree with any of my points, be sure to leave a comment and explain why you guys do that all the time. And yeah, I appreciate it because I like talking or texting or commenting with y'all, I guess. In any case, guys, this is going to be in the video. Miyagi-Do is better than Cobra Kai. It's not particularly close. I don't think I have anything else I need to go over to explain my point. I think these are all great points I brought up. And if you guys enjoyed the video, please be sure to leave a like, subscribe. Thanks for always. Thanks for the previous support. Hope you guys get something good to eat. Hope you guys have a good day at work. Hope you have fun at school. Whenever you watch this, whenever you'll be able to watch this, or whenever you did watch this, thank you for watching. I can never say enough. Whenever it says enough, thank you. And I'm out. Deuces.